There's the regular calendar that we use and have used all our lives, but there's the NFL calendar, and we know how it goes. And in defending the kingdom, we just kind of follow that NFL calendar with all of the excitement in that time of year. And that time of year, at this time of year, is the reveal of the schedule. In this edition of Defending the Kingdom, we reveal to you the 66th schedule of the franchise that started as the Dallas Texans and since 1963 has been the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's all brought to you by Ticketmaster.
Holmes keeps it on an RPO at the 5, gets a lead block. He goes into the end zone near side. Touchdown, Kansas City.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, and I am joined by senior team reporter Matt McMullen. We're on, let's say, location here, Matt. In our practice facility, we have been shoved to other locations, but I thought only appropriate that on the announcing what the 66th team in our franchise history will face is what a very interesting schedule, maybe the most interesting schedule in franchise history. I'd bring a friend with me. So I brought Patrick Mahomes with me. Those of you who are just listening and not viewing, I've got Pat reaching for the pylon against the Colts back in a glorious playoff victory in 2018. It was Pat's first playoff victory, and of course we know he's 17-4, the most successful quarterback in NFL history in the postseason in his first 21 games. So Matt, that being said, we have the schedule, and we're going to unveil it here in a second. But first, overall, well, let's do this. Let's go around the world.
Well, I was going to ask that the title of this episode, is it what major holidays will Mitch and Matt be spending together in 2025? This is the life we've chosen.
That'll be one that I don't think we're scheduled on. Maybe we are. I think Hulu has scheduled a early preseason game, and we're on that at the 4th of July, and we're going to be playing in Iceland, in Reykjavik.
Yes. And maybe
new for the fans. I don't think they know about that one.
I heard about a double header as well on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. That's in the works. We'll see if that comes to fruition. But yes, around the world.
A streaming partner, we're in. I mean, that's just what we do. We want to help those streaming partners of the league as much as we can.
Again, this is the life that we've chosen. It's a good problem to have. People want to watch the Chiefs on national television. So we're going to go on national television on major holidays.
And by the way, with the 66th schedule, we wore our Hank Stram shirts today.
We did.
You got to commemorate. We feel like we're back in 1963 when the Chiefs had just moved here to Kansas City from being the Dallas Texans. And you'll see this Chiefs football on pictures of Hank Stram and his hats and the shirts the coaches wore. So Matt and I thought only fitting on the schedule reveal for the 2025 season that we'd bring a little Hank Stram to the podcast.
And I think Hank Stram would be pretty fired up about playing the Cowboys in Dallas with the chance to beat them on Thanksgiving. So yeah, let's do it for Hank Stram. So we have a busy day today. So just one quick around the world. So I hosted an event over at the stadium with Trent Green, Jamal Charles, and Dante Hall last week. It was super cool because obviously, as you know, those are not just three Chiefs legends, but three of like the greatest guys like you'll ever meet. They're all incredible. And this
wait a minute, they're all three. That's taking you back to your childhood.
Yeah,
you got three of your heroes.
I mean, Trent Green and Dante Hall were on the Chiefs teams that I grew up watching. Then of course Jamal was on the teams that was like, you know, my teenage years, really getting into football, like hanging out with those guys. And obviously I love them as players, but to get to know them and for them to be like awesome people is that much sweeter. So it's cool hanging out with them. But at the event, there was like 50 people from around the country. And I met Rex. Rex came up and talked to me for a while. He big Chiefs fan. We talked Chiefs football for a little bit, and he was awesome. So Rex, shout out to you. Thanks for saying hi.
That's awesome. Where's Rex from?
So in my haste, I don't know if I actually scribbled down where he's from. I scribbled something down that I don't quite understand why I wrote this. So I don't quite know where he's from. So Rex, when I see you again, let me know where you're from. But it was great talking Chiefs football with you.
Sometimes we make stuff up on DTK. So maybe Rex is Turkmenistan.
Azerbaijan. That's always your favorite one to mention.
Yeah.
But then remember,
I met a Rex from Azerbaijan not long ago at Hy-Vee. So that's probably the same guy.
Well, we always joke around about Azerbaijan, but then at camp like 3 years ago, we met people from Azerbaijan. You never know who you're going to meet in St. Joe at training camp.
Well, I love it. One of our DTK Kingdom defenders, Paul Hansen, who is just enthralled with every episode, comes up to me Where was this at? But he was a casual acquaintance, and he goes, OEI.
OEI.
He goes,
Yep.
OEI. Thank you so much for educating us on OEI. Paul, should have told you at the time, OEI is going to get very real here for the Chiefs in 2025 because that's the 23 sovereign states, basically Spanish speaking, Portuguese speaking, and Catalese. Am I saying that right? Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
Catalan.
Catalan. Yep.
Catalan.
Eastern Spain. Right. So, but anyway, I said, Paul, this is going to get real. OEI and yes, part of rookie mini camps all kind of come together in one big world.
Yep.
But an exciting schedule, a demanding schedule, a compelling schedule. There's just a lot to this. And let's just start with the opener um, with this 66th season. And we began this way.
Yep. It's a cool
So
flag.
you like that?
That's cool. Why do you have that though?
Honestly, it ties into Chiefs history because, and he's still in the league, amazingly, Cairo Santos, who's just a terrific young man and was a good kicker for the Chiefs. He injured a groin. He was the first Brazilian-born NFL player, and he was with us in 2014. And honestly, everywhere we went, Matt, on the road, there was a large contingent of Brazilian fans that love the NFL, but that love Cairo. And he was representing, of course, his nation, a Portuguese speaking nation, member of the OEI. And so we'll play our first game of the 2025 season in São Paulo, Brazil. But we had this when I had Cairo Santos on the Kingdom Show.
Yeah,
And
for those just listening, Mitch is holding up a Brazilian flag because we were
yes,
playing in Brazil. Yes, a Brazilian flag. But sorry, continue.
so I try to have the flag. It's one of the things I try to keep the flag of all the nations in my office. So, it's quite a collection. But anyway, with our ever increasing appearances now in foreign countries, and we do have a German flag up, and I spend my time here at the practice facility. But week one, and we will go to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And first time we've been in the South American continent to play an NFL game. And we'll play the Chargers in week one on a Friday night game, which has kind of turned into another deal that the NFL has done. We know the defending world champions, we've done it the 2 years prior to this one, start on Thursday night. The Eagles get that now by being Super Bowl 59 champions. But now the league has started a major kind of new feel international game on the Friday after the opening Thursday. And so it's in Brazil again, and the Chiefs will play the Chargers. Your thoughts on going to Brazil to play a football game and to play the Chargers?
Well, so I love traveling and I love seeing new places. So I'm actually pretty excited about this. Just to go to a new place and to see the Chiefs play football in South America. Years ago, just growing up a Chiefs fan, I never thought I'd see the Chiefs play on all these different continents. And it's cool we get to go along for the ride. I have a few notes about this. So this will be the fourth country outside of the United States the Chiefs will have played a regular season game in. So not including like the American Bowl stuff in Japan or any of that from years ago, but just regular season games the Chiefs have played already in Mexico, Germany, the United Kingdom, and now Brazil. It's four countries. When the Chiefs take the field in Brazil, they'll be the first team to ever play in four separate countries. Now, the Dolphins, I think, will actually pass us later in the year because they're playing in Ireland and Spain. But at least for a little while, we'll be the first team and the only team to have done that. And then we'll also be the only team to play in three different countries outside of North America. So throughout Canada, throughout Mexico, we'll be the only team to have played three regular season games in NFL history outside of North America. Again, the Dolphins will pass us later in the year, but we'll be the first team to do that, which I think is pretty cool. I think this is the sort of thing Lamar Hunt would have absolutely loved to have, not just NFL players and NFL games that mean something taking place overseas, but his team, the Chiefs, are the one that are brand ambassadors for the NFL and for our sport. I think it's pretty cool. So it says a lot about what the league thinks of the Chiefs and thinks of this franchise. And let's go start the season with a W, hopefully in Sao Paulo.
There were rumors 5 years ago that the NFL was going to expand on a consistent basis in Brazil. And we've seen what the league has done in Western Europe, right? It's a staple now in the UK and becoming so in Germany. Well, now all of a sudden in the South American continent, it's being that with the country of Brazil hosting these games now, and presumably on a consistent basis. And this Friday after the Thursday is starting to become a deal now in week one of the National Football League. But we're also on a fast track to have everybody's going to play an international game every year. When the 17 game schedule was set up, it gets clunky because you're hosting 9, on the road 8. It's not an even symmetric thing, but an 8-8-1 certainly is, or when you get to a 9-9 or you get to an 18 game schedule. And so we're getting there. But for the Chargers, some would think it's a competitive advantage just because they have not beaten the Chiefs in the state of California, whatever venue they've been in, since Andy Reid's first year in 2013. And that was the Chiefs' backups playing the Chargers and nearly won the game on a Ryan Suckup missed a 41-yard field goal. Well, the Chiefs' backups would have beaten the Chargers then in San Diego. That's the last time the Chargers won and beat the Chiefs in the state of California. And that's weaved through San Diego, the move, Carson for a while, and in SoFi Stadium. So there have been some classic games, overtime games, but the Chiefs have dominated since 2013. So for the Chargers, let's just change the scenery here. So let's go to Brazil and let's host the Chiefs. So there's some impact and a lot of ways to look at this week one game in South America.
Yeah, it'll be tough for both teams. Just the circumstances are weird. Obviously, it's a long flight for both teams. For us, it's like 13 hours or something going straight there. The good news is it's different than like a European game, or if the Chiefs are going to Australia or Asia or something, where it's pretty much directly south. So I think it's like a 2-hour time difference, which isn't too big of a deal. So a long flight, but at least there's no like jet lag involved where you feel like you're playing in the middle of the night. So I think that's a positive. I mean, again, I think we're fortunate that we have a lot of this international experience too, because our athletic trainers and our doctors and our coaches know how to handle these kind of things really, really well. The Chiefs have never lost a regular season international game. They're 3-0, and if they can be 4-0 after this Chargers game, they would match the Vikings for the most wins without a loss of any team on the international stage. So our team knows what they're doing when it comes to these kind of games, and that gives me confidence, even though this is kind of a weird situation, that we can get the job done.
It is taxing on an entire organization, Chargers included here, but let's just take the Chiefs. The equipment staff, that they are the athletic training staff. And think of this, we'll just have moved our operations back less than a month prior to that from St. Joseph, which is also taxing. But this is a chore, and you sign on for it. I get it, but for fans who just turn on the game, and it appears this is a YouTube live game, so we got another way of viewing this game, and looks like it's free YouTube live, which will be
Yeah.
phenomenon. But the point is, this creates a ton of work and a ton of science and a ton of research. Now, the good thing is there is no game preceding this game. And the international travel throughout the year is very difficult, especially if you play on the road before you play that international game. We saw this happen 2 years ago when we went to Denver and then had to go to Germany. And I did the research. You can follow this up. I've not updated that research, but the winning percentage of teams on the road before they go to the international game is less than 40%. And the reason is there's so many distractions for the entire organization on the football side to get ready basically for 2 weeks at one time. Now, that won't be the case with week one. However, you will have this team, the Chiefs, on the move because they go to a third-party spot for training camp, move back a couple of weeks, the preseason games, and then head to Brazil on the 5th of September. It'll be a Friday night, 5 September. And we started this with a 17-game schedule. Used to be the NFL would break down, you could easily look at it in quarters because it was 16 games divided by 4 quarters. Not so much with the 17-game schedule. And I think where the Chiefs have been, especially the last year being 7 straight years in the AFC Championship game, an NFL record, by the way, it almost, I think we've lived being in thirds. So and Matt, you and I have talked about this a lot. It becomes a 6-6-5, if you will. And that 5 is a fight to the finish because it's all in December, basically, or after Thanksgiving. So let's take the rest of the first third of the schedule. After the Chiefs will play the Chargers in Brazil. Then they'll have the home opener. But the home opener just happens to be a rematch of Super Bowls 57 and 59. And yes, Matt, it is a rematch of also Super Bowl 57 that we seem to have forgotten. Maybe in the land of brotherly love. Did they forget that game? Anyway, it seems to me like it's 1-1. But here we go. We're going to play the Eagles in the home opener in a late Sunday afternoon game, which would be the week 2 game and a rematch of Super Bowl 59 and 57.
Yeah, it's funny how Super Bowl 57 has kind of just been forgotten about here. But
that year was
I
that? Oh no, we did play and win that. Okay,
listen, the Eagles were great last year. They won the Super Bowl.
awesome.
We move on. The
Good
Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls in the last 6 years too. So we move on. I like starting out early with that game though. For a lot of reasons. And the same can be said for the Ravens game in week 4, because those are tough games against teams that know each other very well. And we've seen in the past where it's a long season, right? You might have some injuries and you have a game against the Eagles or the Ravens looming in like week 12. And it's like, man, and it's on a short week or something. Like, I like getting these games out of the way in September when the teams are healthy. And the Chiefs are always so good out of the gate. So I like having the Eagles game really early. I also like having the Ravens game really early. Reminds me of last year, starting against Baltimore and having Cincinnati in week 2. It was like, man, that's a tough start. But if we can get through that first couple games undefeated or 1-1 or whatever, we're going to set ourselves up for a great season. And it's the same thing with this. Like, if you can start strong against the Chargers and beat the Eagles in week 2, you're going to feel great about the rest of the year and where you're headed. So it's a tough start, but this is the reality when you're a team like the Chiefs. It's going to play a first place schedule every single year. You're going to have to play tough games. And in my opinion, I'd rather play those tough games early on in the season when you're healthy and your body isn't hurting too much. You're not playing off a short week and you can get after these guys.
Yeah, and so both the Eagles and Chiefs will have a bit of extended time before, because the Eagles will open on Thursday night. We'll play on Friday night. Now, we'll get kind of wiped out on that flight home because that'll wipe out Saturday, basically, with the 13 or 14-hour flight that you had going north to south, south to north on the return flight. The Eagles, though, will play on the opening Thursday night. So both of these teams will have ample time. It's not like you're playing the Eagles on a short week, and that's a little bit your point. Now, I hope you have your night goggles for this first third of the schedule.
Yeah.
Because the Chiefs will be somewhat nocturnal in these games. And the fact that the Chiefs now have become, we joked about streaming, but Monday Night Football wants the Chiefs. Sunday Night Football wants the Chiefs. The Fox and CBS, when they get an exclusive window, which they take turns getting that 325 Sunday window, they want the Chiefs. It's not arrogance. The league has admitted it. Mike North admitted it. Like, the Eagles pull a number, right? And so, I'm sorry, the Chiefs pull a number. So the Chiefs pull a number. Let's put them in there. Every slot we can find. That's the feel of this actually throughout this whole schedule. But this first third is definitely that way, because the next game is a bit surprising. But it's Sunday Night Football in the Meadowlands at the New York Giants. Now, here's your note, Chiefs Kingdom, for this game. The Chiefs have never beaten the Giants in New York. Not that we play them a lot, but the Chiefs are 0 in New York against the Giants in 66 seasons. So this is a chance on Sunday Night Football in week 3 to get rid of that goose egg.
That's crazy. When you told me that yesterday, I couldn't believe it. I mean, like you said, I know we don't play them a whole lot in New York, but still, like, of all teams, it's just random to me. But, there's a first time for everything. So hopefully we can get that done.
And think of the history of this game. I mean, the last time we were there, we lost it. They had no wide receivers. They beat us 12-9. Kelsey threw an interception. It was a strange game. And then I remember, like, Tiki Barber ran for 700 yards in another one.
Yeah.
Kind of out of the playoffs. And I mean, that's not been a good place. But this will be Sunday Night Football, main stage. I believe it's the Giants home opener. So week 3 is a home opener for them. But it's Sunday Night Football against New York, the Giants.
All right, bear with me. I'm going to pull up our matchups against the Giants in New York. One second
Not good.
here.
They're not fun.
Let's see. New York Giants.
I think there's 6 or 7, maybe.
Yeah, we're 0 and 7. So you mentioned the game in 2017 when Kels threw the interception, which he threw that like 50 yards. He was going
Yeah,
to throw that no matter what.
yeah.
2005, we lost 27-17.
Tiki Barber ran for 700 yards.
He did. He ran for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. Uh, Before that was 1998. We lost 28-7.
That was no
Man,
good. That's when that team started. Our team started to take a crash and burn.
yeah, not a great game.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. We lost in 1992. This is before your time. 35-21. Christian Okoye is part of that game. Yeah, there's just some rough games. We're gonna exercise some demons here on in prime time against the Giants on Sunday Night Football. I just would have never guessed that. I think we have 7 primetime games and 8 standalone games. I mean, that's crazy. That's half your schedule is standalone. That's nuts. And not all of it's Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, but we'll talk about the Thanksgiving game later, the Christmas game, the game in Brazil counts to all this, but half your schedule is standalone. It's again, if you would have talked to us 10 years ago, like half the Chiefs' schedule is going to be either in prime time or a standalone game when there's no other games going on. Not sure I would have believed you.
And by the way, I forgot to mention historically, the first ever Texans game, going back to the first franchise year, was at the Chargers. So it wasn't in Brazil, but it was the Chargers and on the road, essentially. And then the first Kansas City year, 1963, with the Chiefs, their home opener wasn't until October the 8th.
What?
I think they had conflicts at the Kansas City the baseball team at the time. Home opener, everybody, it'll be a month. So get your tickets. And the week before, they played the Chargers on the road before they played at home, their home opener on October the 8th, 1963. All right, let's just get into more of this. After the Sunday Night Football game, let's see, it's a rematch of the 2 years ago AFC Championship game because here come the Baltimore Ravens for the next game, another Sunday afternoon game where these games have all been classics.
Yeah, again, I like getting Baltimore early in the season. Same situation as last year. I felt the same way going into week 1 last year against Baltimore. Like, Baltimore's really good. You're going to have to play them at some point, and they're going to be a tough game. I'd rather play them in September than have that game looming on the calendar in week 13 or 14. We'll play them whenever we have to play them, but if I had my choice, I like playing them in September just because you'll be healthy. You'll be fired up, ready to go. The weather will be nice. Like, it's just conducive, I think, to your best performance. And also, if you have to see them again in the playoffs, I prefer not having to play them twice in like a month or a month and a half, like we've done before with some teams like Cincinnati and Houston. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough playing a team like Baltimore this early in the year, but you're going to have to play them at some point. And if I had my pick, I like playing them in week 4.
Yeah, this schedule's incredible. Now we keep your night goggles on or borrow them from your dad because because this year in the 2025 season, every 3 years, you'll play an entire AFC division other than yours, in addition to yours. So it's the AFC South this year. So we go to Jacksonville, but it's Monday Night Football in Jacksonville. And again, one of those where you kind of emoji think up into the sky because you wouldn't think a Giants game would be a Sunday Night Football game. And it's interesting to me that Jacksonville is a Monday night game in Jacksonville.
There's some excitement around them. I think with Travis Hunter going to be in Jacksonville now, but I think the timing of this game is a major blessing that people might not realize. We've had to play Jacksonville before at noon in September, like early September, and there are few places on earth I think I'd not want to be more than Jacksonville in early September in the middle of the day. It is brutally hot and humid. And we had that game a couple years ago there where we were doing field pass and it was like the surface of the sun. Like, I think the game against the Dolphins where it was 20 below was more comfortable than it was in Jacksonville when it was like 110 degrees. That's debatable, but it's rough. And you don't really think about it because it's, just hot in Florida, but it's miserable. So to have that game in October, early October, and at night, it's probably going to be really pleasant, which is a major benefit because I think it's a competitive advantage for the Jags. They're playing in that all the time, that when a team comes in and it's just like brutally hot and humid, they're used to it and you're not. At least I think this kind of levels the playing field where we'll go in there. It's going to be a beautiful night, most likely, and we don't have to worry about the heat. That's one of the major games I had circled when I was looking forward to the schedule is when is that Jacksonville game? Because it'd be our luck. It'd be like week 1 or week 2. And I'm glad it's not. I think October and at night is perfect for that.
Yeah, and it's been up and down historically there. Remember the Sammy Watkins Palooza where he had over 200 yards receiving? That was kind of fun, but some not so fun. I remember Maurice Jones-Drew like having the time of his life against us there. And you have just broken news in the fact that the NFL is looking to expand, of course, even more so across our planet. When our planet is covered, they're going to move to other planets in the solar system, and they're looking at Mercury.
Wow.
Yeah.
Would
But
you rather be on Mercury or in Jacksonville in September?
well, that's my point.
They're the
Uh,
same in my
so
opinion.
some would think, oh my gosh, you can't play on Mercury. No, you can. If you play in September at Jacksonville, you're essentially on the surface of Mercury. But oh my gosh, you're right. It'll be humid though, even that early in the season. And then the final game of these first six, which again are all over the place as far as dates and times and a lot of night games, but another game that will be featured nationally, and that will be the Detroit Lions coming to GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium in a rematch of the 2023 opener, the 21-20 Lions victory. So again, a real challenger in the NFC. These are tough opponents, but this will be, we say it every week, if it's not going to be the biggest game in the league that week, it's one of the biggest, and this certainly has that feel to close out the first third of the season.
And this game against the Lions is almost what we got in Super Bowl 58. It was that close to being Super Bowl 58, but the Lions blew that game against the 49ers. It'll be a great game. I'm really curious to see what the Lions look like this year without Ben Johnson. Can they keep all that creativity and their offensive firepower that they've become known for over the last 3 years without him? We'll see. You know, we talk about steering wheel pounders a lot. For those that don't often listen to us, it's when you're sitting at a stoplight and you think back to a certain game or something and you just bang the steering wheel. This is kind of an undercover one, but one of our producers, Greg, who's sitting right over here, after we lost that game to
He's
the
brilliant,
Lions,
by the way.
yeah, all of our like awesome hype videos, that's Greg. But he was showing me the shot that he had from behind Jared Goff in that game against the Lions a couple years ago in the season opener. And obviously that game came down to the wire. But earlier in the game, it was like 3rd and long, and Goff hit Amon Ra or somebody for a big gain. They went down, scored a touchdown, and it was a huge drive in the game. Well, L'Jarius Sneed was this close to a strip sack. I didn't even notice it like live, but like his fingers were touching Goff's arm, and Goff got it off just in time. And I don't know why that game bothers me. We won the Super Bowl that year, but still, I just think back to that game, and we were that close to a big play and winning it. But I digress. Hopefully, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson, Christian Fulton can have some corner blitzes against the Lions in this one. Make up for that one.
And for sure, a steering wheel pounder is a perfectly thrown crossing pattern to Kadarius Toney. Wait a minute, off his hands, Brian Branch, and he'll take it for a pick six and a 21-20 victory.
A tough one for Kadarius, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Jones didn't play in that game, nor did Travis Kelce. So anyway, not that we remember, but that ends up the first third of the schedule. Now we move into a very intriguing second third of the schedule because I think this will be one of the biggest games in the National Football League. Well, I'm jumping ahead here. Let's go to Vegas. Vegas at home will start this next third. And a lot of intrigue around Vegas, obviously, with Pete Carroll getting Genty as a running back. Brock Bowers is a phenomenal tight end. And with Geno Smith at quarterback, there just seems to be more kind of rhythm and reason to the Raiders than it's been there the past several years. But this game starts the next third in a home division game against the Raiders.
Now, I'm hesitant to say this because the NFL season always has surprises, but I do think through the first third of the year, I think we have a pretty good idea where all those teams are and what to expect from those teams, at least saying that here in mid-May. The Raiders are the first team when I look at the schedule that I don't really know what they're going to look like in 2025. I mean, they have great talent with obviously Bowers and Ashton Genty and now Geno Smith there. How's it all going to work together? I mean, the Raiders could be a team that surprises some people. We'll see. But they're a team that when I look at the schedule, I'm not really sure what to expect. So that'll be an interesting one for a bunch of reasons. Going for a 10th straight AFC West title, you got to win your division games at home. The game against the Raiders at home last year was a little bit too close for comfort, in my opinion. But curious to see how the Raiders look this year. Could be a big game.
And then, of course, one of the great Chief Kingdom villains of all time, Superman Lex Luthor. Here comes Max Crosby once again with his cohorts on defense. Then a game that will be, I think, outstanding because I think the Washington Commanders are going to be really good.
Yeah.
And here we go. Primetime football, once again, keep your night goggles out, and the Chiefs hosting the Commanders in primetime.
I mean, speaking of, you never really know what a team's going to look like year to year. Did we think the Commanders were going to be one of the most exciting teams in the NFL last season when we were breaking down the schedule 2 years ago? I don't think so, but they're that now. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about like the NBA draft lottery lately and how like some people think the NFL should go to a draft lottery. I don't think so. I think the way the NFL draft is set up is perfect because of teams like the Washington Commanders, where you can struggle and struggle, and then you get a quarterback like Jaden Daniels and everything turns around. And in 1 year, you're all of a sudden a team that people want to watch on TV. And I think it's great for the NFL and great for the league. I mean, the Commanders were so much fun to watch last year. They were electric. Kind of reminded me a lot of the early Patrick Mahomes Chiefs, where they just went out there, they didn't know what they didn't know, and they just had fun and played and had a lot of success. So that should be an awesome game. And in the middle of the season, you know, we're going to know kind of a lot about both teams. Can the Commanders keep this up when they're expected to win? That's always something that I'm looking for when you have a great kind of breakout season. The next year, can you win when people think you're supposed to be good? We'll find out, and we'll know by then for sure.
To this point, Chiefs have already played, let's see, Philadelphia, Detroit, Baltimore, Washington, and then the trip to Buffalo. Let's go. Well, why not go back to Buffalo in early November? So here we go again to take on the Bills. Their new stadium, I don't think will be done by then, but we see all the red iron going up, and they're on a fast track to get that stadium going at the exact spot where their old one was, or close. So you still get the snow effect off the lake for fun, although we're going to be a little bit sheltered now with their new stadium. But the point is, going back to which will be, again, the premier game of the week in the NFL, the Chiefs will go to Buffalo.
And that's always a tough physical game that feels like a playoff game. And that's why I think having the bye immediately afterward is just a major godsend. Because think about last year, tough game, goes down to the wire, feels like a postseason game. I think we went to Carolina the week after, and Carolina was struggling, and that game went to overtime. It's just difficult when you play a game like that and then have to turn around right afterward and play another team. So I like having to bye immediately after that Buffalo game. That Buffalo game is always a good kind of barometer for where the team is at. I think last year, in a lot of ways, it helped this team answer some questions and look in the mirror about how are we going to finish the rest of the year. You think about that game, I mean, the Chiefs lose it, and Buffalo was breathing down our necks for that 1 seed. And it says a lot. The Chiefs were able to basically win out. You throw out the Denver game at the end of the year because it didn't matter. The Chiefs went out after that game. They end up hosting Buffalo and the AFC Championship game, and we win that game. Like, because the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, some of these storylines are kind of forgotten about, but that Buffalo game last year in Buffalo was a crossroads moment for the season, and the Chiefs did everything right the rest of the way and almost got it all the way done to the end in the Super Bowl. So anyway, I think this game could be like that again. I like that this game is in the middle of the season for both teams. We'll know how both teams are doing at that point. And it's always a great game. I always love going there. It's a total old school football crowd. Just hopefully we win this one this time, because I think like grown men were looking at you and I like the war had just ended or something. And, you know, a lot of certain fingers being pointed our way. So hopefully we win this one this time. It's more fun to go to Buffalo and win.
Well, you won't. Your night goggles will be kind of worn out by then, but you'll wear your NASCAR fire suit, uh,
Yeah.
walk through the crowd. Um, but yeah, that'll be. But the bye then comes after the Buffalo game, as you alluded to. I think every coach, every team, if you would ask them, because of the 17 game schedule, would love to have the bye either after 8 or 9 games. That's where it occurs here for the Chiefs. And last year, 2 years ago, was at this spot, but we were coming back from Germany. And so it was a little bit difficult. It was kind of the bye that didn't feel like a bye. But to play 9 games, have a bye, and then get ready for the next half of the season, I think is a good spot. Maybe the best thing about the Chiefs in this schedule, because then you go off the bye and you go to Denver. And let's be honest, even though the backups played last year, it was a Denver route. And then 2 years ago, the ambush. The Chiefs have lost in Denver the last 2 years. And much like I was going to mention after to tag your Buffalo comments, Buffalo now has to deal with a division that's trying to rise to them, right? We have seen New England trying to get back to where they were, at least try to be competitive in the division, and Miami's dangerous. Well, we've seen it in the AFC West. We've already talked about the Raiders and the Chargers, but here are the Broncos. They've done a phenomenal job of drafting and free agents, especially that defense. And you've got Sean Payton, who's a Super Bowl champion coach. So this Bronco team will be formidable. And this game coming off the bye to go to Denver. But if you're going to play Denver and try to break a 2 game losing streak to them, to do it off a bye, to me, is preferable if you're the Chiefs.
Yeah, anyone listening to this knows all about Coach Reid's record after a bye week. We don't have to belabor that point, but having Denver, a division game, and a team in Denver that we think is going to be pretty good this year after the bye, I think is a major benefit. Like, I really wouldn't love if we played Buffalo and then Denver immediately after. Like, that's a tough turnaround. I like having the bye in between. And to your point, we had the benefit for years, like years, of having a week 10, 11, or 12 bye. And it can't go undiscussed how important that is and how helpful that is for a team that's trying to make deep postseason runs, because last year, having the bye in week 5, like there were some positives there, but for the most part, when you have that week 5 bye and then you're playing like 15 games in a row, that's brutal, right? So to have the bye in week 10, I think is a major, major blessing. And yeah, to have the Broncos immediately after it, you want to have those competitive games, those games that mean a lot after the bye, because that way you have more time to prepare for it. So I think it shapes up pretty well. I'm much happier about the bye situation specifically than I was this time last year.
One thing I love about your relationship with your wife, you like to travel and do things, and you traveled to Wichita not long ago.
We did.
You traveled through the beautiful Flint Hills, right? The grassy areas, some of the most luscious grass. It's why it's used for grazing. It's remarkable, unique in the world, really. But do you realize, I know you clean your windshield right before you go. Is it about Emporia where you can hardly see out because of all the bugs that hit the windshield when you're on that drive?
Yeah, Emporia is about right.
The reason I say that is now the end of the second third of the schedule going into the warp speed part of the schedule is bugs hitting the windshield. And it's right about Thanksgiving time. The other thing, when I talk to young people who go, I would love to do what you do, man. It's got to be the coolest job ever. You do games like 17, and then you just sit around and don't do anything. And it's the same with yours. I'd love to be Matt. That's so cool. And you and I always tell them that their leisure is our profession.
Yeah.
And it's very different. And when you live it and get into it, it's why not very many people do what we do, because there's a weeding out process. But I always say, if there's 12 holidays out of the year, which 9 do you want to give up? This year, for the first time ever, and I'm going to start with the Colts here, because the Colts start the bug on the windshield part of the schedule. Wham, 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 wham. Here it comes. Colts at home, which we know Chris Ballard will have those guys feisty and ready to play. He spoiled the party here in 2019. I can still hear him. I go, nice job, Chris, you got us. And he's going, trenches, trenches. He's yelling trenches, walking out the tunnel. And I respect and appreciate Chris so much. But the Chiefs will play on both Thanksgiving and Christmas this year for the first time in the 66-year history of the franchise. And so that becomes this discussion. We'll get it, the Chiefs-Cowboys game, something in and of itself. but the bugs on the windshield hitting this part of the schedule is really challenging.
I'm glad that Colts game is at home because even though the Thanksgiving game isn't like a primetime game, it kind of feels like one. And to your point earlier about like how it's easy to look forward to the international games, it would be easy to look forward to the Thanksgiving game. Coach Reed and our coaching staff are so good about making sure our guys don't do that, but it does help, I think, having that Colts game at home, not having to travel somewhere before the Thanksgiving game. The Colts are interesting. I'm not really sure what to make of them this year. At that point, we'll know. But you're right. Like, I mean, we got ambushed by a Colts team that was not very good back in 2022 in Indianapolis. So you never know with that. Got to be ready for them. The Thanksgiving game is interesting, though. That'll be kind of a fun bucket list sort of thing, playing the Cowboys in Dallas on Thanksgiving. Again, like I said earlier, I think Lamar Hunt would love this. I mean, what a cool opportunity. And hopefully to go in there and win. I've never been to that stadium before, never been. So I'm looking forward to that. No better time to go than on Thanksgiving, right?
And again, the Chiefs have not won in Dallas since 1975.
It's crazy.
It's one of those what really and you alluded the last time we were there, that was the Tyreek Hill scoring before the end of the half
Yeah.
game, but really got outplayed by the Cowboys on that day. And I remember going down there my second year being the voice of the Chiefs, and this would be my 32nd year. But in '95, we went there and played them on Thanksgiving. Keep in mind that was a Super Bowl champion team. They had won two. They didn't get to the back-to-back-to-back like we did last year because they got beat by the 49ers. The 49ers played it, but then we're playing the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. The Chiefs, formerly the Dallas Texans, the 10-gallon war, right? The supposed, hey, Lamar meeting Tex Schramm and going, somebody's got to go. All of that, the Preston Road Trophy, which is presented to the winner of this game between Jerry Jones and the Hunt family and Clark Hunt. But I remember going to Lamar and Norma's house. They were such gracious people the Wednesday night before the game. And I remember, keep in mind, it's my second year being the voice of the Chiefs. And I'm looking around seeing all these like antiquities from like, oh my gosh, that's from like the 17th century. Wait a minute, this is from like, the 4th century.
Ancient
Like,
Rome.
don't break anything, don't touch anything. If they hand you, but they were so gracious. But I just remember how nervous I was because it was just a phenomenal experience. But I'm really excited in this game for the Hunt family because for this next generation with Clark and his siblings and all the way down the line, when you look at Lamar Jr., you look at Sharon, you look at Dan, this game is big for them. It's also big for the guy. Now, if you're listening to this and not watching it, I've got Pat with me. Pat Mahomes is reaching for it's really big for him because this is Tyler, Texas, White House High School going back to play the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. And I
Yeah.
remember presenting, this is several years back, I presented Clark an award as the Entrepreneur of the Year in Dallas. So you can imagine the Metroplex's most prominent business leaders are in this audience. And I introduced Clark. And at the time, we were rising to prominence. And I just said, we're really excited about our Texas high school quarterback. And I could hear this murmuring in the audience. And then there was some Texas Tech alums going, Reckham Tech at the back. But so all of this comes into play in the fact that this is the Chiefs going back to Dallas, the Hunt family, all our Texas high school players on our team, but primarily Patrick Mahomes, really exciting for him. Then you look at the history of Thanksgiving Day football with the Chiefs. They're 5-5 on Thanksgiving, hadn't played since '06. That was that night game back. That was a big deal. That was the first game, I believe, that was on NFL Network. But even the prime Chiefs teams of 60 when they played at Municipal Stadium at 22nd in Brooklyn, the Chiefs played 3 consecutive years on Thanksgiving, 67, 68, 69. And I think that was kind of the answer to the Cowboys because the rivalry between the Chiefs, Texans / Chiefs and Cowboys is real. And we're going to see it come alive, I think, in an exciting scenario in Dallas on Thanksgiving with the Chiefs against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think it'll be awesome. You bring up that 2006 game. I was there. I forced my dad to take me to that game. I had a brand new Jared Allen jersey that I wore, and it was cold, but
It's
back then I
cold.
was I was crazy and I didn't want to have a jacket on because I wanted to show off my new Jared Allen jersey. So my dad thought I was legitimately a insane person. But Chiefs won that game, if I recall. It was an awesome game against the Broncos, and looking back, I mean, those are the sort of memories that made me a Chiefs fan, And now that Jared Allen's going in the Hall of Fame, I feel like an old person. But yeah, these holiday games are always fun. I mean, the Pittsburgh game last year was awesome, right? To go to Pittsburgh to win, to have an awesome performance all around. To do it on Christmas was cool, and to have a chance to do it now on Thanksgiving in Dallas, like a total traditional thing, to go in there and to hopefully completely ruin their Thanksgiving and their tradition is a cool opportunity. So I'm fired up for the Hunts, and you're right about Patrick. I hadn't thought too much about that, but this has got to be a huge deal for him. Like you grew up in Texas, and you're going to play uh, at AT&T Stadium against the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and you're in a different uniform, you have a chance to win and ruin it for him. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, not just Patrick, for Brittany, their whole family, and both sides on the Mahomes side and Brittany's side. This is going to be a big deal for them. And so I'm excited for them in that regard. So once you get to Thanksgiving, bugs on the windshield, you tell people if you want to be involved in our business, then give up all your holidays. You get 4th of July, you'll get Easter. That's about it because you really don't get much else. And our wives and families have to be understanding. But then you hit the last five, the 6-6-5 split. And you and I now have lived this really for 7 consecutive seasons. And even pressing in prior to that, the Chiefs have been the most successful team of all you take the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, the most successful team. But that means that December, these games, this is the playoffs before the playoffs. Teams are tired. They're beaten up. Some teams' seasons have been wrecked long ago. Others are trying to fight for positioning and try to get there. And these games mean like double when you get to December. And the calendar's busy. It's the holidays. And there's just a lot going on mentally and physically during this time. And the rush and push to the end is something that's very real. And I think, Andy Reid being off the bye, getting his team prepared, the way they do OTAs, all the stuff we talk about on DTK all the time. The way Andy Reid handles these Decembers, I think, is masterful because things can go really off the rails in these December games, especially when guys are tired and beaten up. And this is starting with the Houston Texans, who, I don't know, do they have their own hotel in Kansas City? Because that starts this push of 5 games to close the 2025 year.
So going into that Texans game, we'll have a kind of a mini bye, right? Because you play the Cowboys on Thursday. You have some extra time to get ready for the Texans. I like that. You're right. I think it's funny that this will be the third time in 12 months we're going to play the Texans all at home. So they're getting pretty familiar with us. But I like having that extra time to get ready for them because the Texans, as we know, are a playoff caliber team. Then the Chargers at home immediately after. I like that game and the Broncos game a little bit later are both at home. That's 3 home games in December, 2 of which are against divisional opponents. I really think that's a benefit for the Chiefs in a lot of ways. And who knows what the Titans will look like this year, but your lone road game in December until the last week of the season is against a team that was picking number 1 overall in the draft. So the Titans could be great this year. I don't know. Maybe they will be, maybe they won't, but I would rather have that game be the Titans than having to go to Buffalo in late December or something like that, just based on what we know about these teams here in May. So I think December shapes up really well for the Chiefs in a lot of ways. They have to go out there and take advantage of it. But, we've looked at the schedule in previous years, even looking at last year's schedule, and it's like, man, we got to play the Texans on a Saturday, then just a few days later, go to Pittsburgh and play the Steelers on Christmas. Like, that's really tough. I don't feel that as much with this December schedule. I think this is actually more favorable in a lot of ways, just up to our guys to go take advantage of it.
And to play Christmas and Thanksgiving, again, it's historic for this franchise. The Christmas at home feels different than Christmas on the road. And you bring up the Pittsburgh game last year, 3 games in 11 days. That was the 3rd game. Buffalo's breathing down the neck. You can't lose a game. You're going to lose the 1 seed. There was just so much tension. Guys were tired. I remember going to the chapel. I've talked about this publicly in some of the presentations I've made across the Midwest here in the last 120 days. But that chapel on that night, Christmas Eve, I just looked around at our guys. They were tired, beaten up, pushing through, lots of pressure, and they were missing their families.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a Drew Tranquil, he's got little kids. Or Harrison Bucker, there's other. They got little kids at home on Christmas Eve. Well, think about your Christmas Eves at home, Matt. And it's difficult, but when you're at home, it's a little bit different. Coach will give some time. Where there'll be some time to have a little bit of a Christmas Eve earlier in the day before the team will go to the hotel and go to their meetings and get ready. But to play Christmas on the road, to me, is very different. Or playing Thanksgiving on the road is not as difficult as playing Christmas on the road. And so, because you wipe out Christmas Eve completely. And so to get this game at home, it's a challenge. Remember, people's leisure's our profession. You sign on for it, but it doesn't make it any easier. But still, to play it at home to me is not like last year in playing in Pittsburgh and having that 3 games in 11 days under tons of pressure to play those games. And so, yeah, but there's these division games, and the NFL does it. They backload it. Even if teams are out of it, we've seen it before. I've told you before, one of my favorite moments, and I think it was the moment that the Detroit Lions came alive, was the 22 season, I believe. They're knocked out on the last week. They're knocked out, but they have the last Sunday night game of the scheduling grid, and they're going to play the Packers. And Dan Campbell goes, "We're not in it." They go, "Well, you're not in it. What are you playing for?" He goes, "I don't want them to go either." And he looked right at the Packers side. And so it's brilliant the way the NFL does the scheduling, because we're sitting here playing our three division opponents all in December, and 2 of those at home. And then the game against Vegas is that kind of flex game. Is it Saturday or is it Sunday? That'll be dependent on what it means. And so a lot of drama. But these last 5, Matt, we've lived it. We've lived it the last 8 years. These Decembers have been intense, and it's the playoffs before the playoffs. And so to me, an intriguing part of the 6-6-5 schedule split.
Yeah, and it'll be intense again. It always is. Hopefully the Chiefs are competing for that 1 seed down the stretch like they have been over the last several years. But there's going to be teams right behind them, right? And to have the 3 home games in December, to have 2 of them be against divisional opponents, I think is a major, major plus. And to your point about Christmas, I couldn't agree more, because on one end, nobody should feel sorry for us and nobody should feel sorry for NFL players. But at the same time, it kind of felt like Christmas didn't happen last year for those of us that were in Pittsburgh. It was awesome to go and win, but it kind of just felt like a normal road game. And I did feel badly for our players. I felt bad for my family, your family. So playing at home on Christmas versus playing on the road on Christmas is truly night and day. Like, we'll get to have Christmas Eve. We'll have like a normal Christmas day. Then we'll just go to the stadium late afternoon and go play a football game. Like, that's totally different than being on the road. And like, remember, like, all the restaurants were closed. Like, we had to find like the one like bar just to eat dinner. So like, selfishly, and I think for the morale of the team, I'm very glad that we're at home this year. And also, we've talked about like how this whole season is about exercising some demons, right? Like, we're going to hopefully beat the Giants in New York for the first time. We haven't mentioned yet, like, Tennessee has been a house of horrors for us. Like, let's go win in Tennessee for the first time in a while, since 2013, I think. But also, let's win at home on Christmas and exercise the demons of what happened here 2 years ago against the Raiders. Like, we need to fix that. So hopefully exercising a lot of demons this year.
Well, there you have it. This has been an episode that has lasted almost an hour, probably our longest PK ever. But this schedule deserves, and let me say this too, when people react, we're talking about the Christmas and Thanksgiving and last year being on the road in Pittsburgh. It does make us mindful of first responders, people that work in healthcare, the military, and a lot of folks that do work on Christmas and Christmas Eve. It makes you think twice about them, to respect and appreciate them. But also want fans to know, you listen to a game, you watch a game, you turn it on, you turn it off, and you immediately turn to your family to enjoy it. When you're the teams playing in that game, it becomes something of a real sacrifice. But again, it's what we sign on for. That's what we have this year with Thanksgiving and Christmas. But Matt, your final thoughts as we close out this edition.
Yeah, just that I'm excited. I think I say this every single time that we get the schedule is we always talk about the potential, the excitement for the upcoming season. And, you and I here in May, we talk about this all the time, like off the recording, like how pumped we are for football already, how badly we want football to be back. And when you see the schedule and you hold it in your hand, you actually kind of see a roadmap for what next year looks like. And it feels real. Like it feels like the season's right around the corner. Like today is really the day for me where it stops being the off season and it starts being like OTAs, training camp. Like the season is kind of here in a way. We're not just sitting around talking about free agents or draft picks or whatever, or talking about last season at all. It's all about this upcoming season. And when you have the schedule and you see where you're going, you see when the primetime games are, and you can talk about the December slate and all that stuff, makes it feel very real. So I'm as fired up and ready to get to some OTAs here in a couple weeks. What about you?
Same thing. I mean, the segment of the whole free agent draft is like, what's your team? What you're kind of trying to mold your team, but you now generally know who your team is going to at least have on its roster to go to the next phase, which is getting ready for the season. But now you know what that season looks like. It will start in Brazil. Okay.
Yep.
It starts in Brazil and hopefully ends in Santa Clara. But it is the 66th schedule.